Red, the big sweet fire truck in the Cars movie, is a fan favorite in the Cars universe. His shy and introverted persona brings a sort of calm to the much more chaotic habitants of Radiator Springs. For most of his time on the screen, he's either watering the town's flowers, hosing down folks, or is being brought to his emotions by McQueen. But what is most interesting about Red is the fact that he's never said a word, at least not explicitly. The most audible Red gets are the certain sounds he makes from time to time, but that's really all we get. So why exactly have we never heard Red speak? To start off, there's a somewhat popular theory in fandom groups that Red is being mute and quiet in all his scenes is a tribute to Joe Ranft. For those of you that do not know, Joe Ranft was an American screenwriter, animator, voice actor, and very common figure in Disney and Pixar universe. And a very common figure in the Disney and Pixar universe, John Ranft played a major role in shaping the stories of some beloved animated films, and was known for his ability to create emotional arcs and characters that resonated with his audience. He also co-wrote Toy Story 2 and Cars, and played major roles in the making of other famous movies like Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo. However, just a year before the premiere of Cars, Joe Ranft unfortunately died in a tragic accident. But how exactly does Joe's passing have anything to do with Red's silence? Is he the missing voice in the movie, like he is in Pixar? I mean, since we know all the voices had to have been pre-recorded before Mr. Ranft's passing, it doesn't really seem wise to assume that Red is silent in the first Cars movie because of his death. I would understand if we were talking about the second or third installments, but we don't hear Red speak at any point in the movie. After the death of Paul Newman, the voice actor of the fabulous Doc Hudson, Pixar decided to honor him by only using past recordings of him in flashbacks and not recasting someone else for the role. Why couldn't we get a voiced Red in the first part of the franchise? Well, to answer that, we might need to deviate a bit from the Cars universe. You remember Wheezy from Toy Story 2? The little penguin who was largely silent through the movie because of his broken squeaker until he gets his squeaker replaced. He was also voiced by Joe Ranft. So, it is a fair point that Red's silence in the Cars movie mirrors that of Wheezy throughout the majority of Toy Story. And considering how well Disney animation and cinematic universe is known to include a lot of Easter eggs in its films. For example, there's the number A113 on Mater's license plate, which is tribute to the CalArts classroom where most of Pixar's animators study, and McQueen's iconic 95 race number being a nod to the year of the first Pixar movie. So it won't be a stretch to consider Red's silence as their way of honoring Joe Ranft's passing. At the same time, the difference between the cases of Red and Doc is the role that Doc played in the movie. You see, Doc Hudson played the role of a deuteragonist in the movie. A deuteragonist is the second most important character after the protagonist, which is the main character. We all know the important role of Doc Hudson played in the life of McQueen in the first Cars movie, from helping him contain his absurd rookie behaviors to teaching him the iconic turn right to go left move, and finally to becoming the chief of his pit crew. Doc's role was way too important in the buildup of McQueen's plot, so a change in his voice would certainly not go unnoticed, and that's why Newman's voice role couldn't be replaced. However, as much as we loved Red, he wasn't really threaded in McQueen's profile and the general plot, and since Pixar wasn't interested in getting a new voice actor for his role, only having him speak in the first film would have him really imbalanced. So, if Red had been voiced in Cars 1, we might not have seen him again for the other two movies. He might have suddenly left in the town or might have gotten transferred to a different state as a firefighter. And since the scriptwriters saw so much potential in Red's character, they felt it would be a whole lot better to have him in all of the movies, even if it meant being voiceless. But what if I told you that at some point in the hit franchise, Red, the fire truck, might have used his words? Towards the end of the first Cars movie, after Mac and the press find McQueen, there's chaos everywhere. While Mac's trying to apologize to Lightning, Harv, McQueen's manager, is trying to get a hold of Lightning, and at the same time, The press is ready to grill the race car too. But what's this at the back? I see Lizzie, Guido, Sarge, and who else? Red? Now Red's supposed to be quiet, isn't he? But we see his little tricky lips moving rapidly. Is that chatter? Ain't no way! To back this up, when Red avoids interaction with McQueen by running away, Mater simply offers the explanation that Red is just shy. He doesn't say anything that insinuates in any way that the fire truck is mute, that he is incapable of speaking. And times when he'd water the flowers, Red only smiles in silence. These point me towards the direction that Red is simply really quiet and would rather express himself through his actions. He's selectively mute. Radiator Springs is full of loud and quirky characters like Mater and Luigi. They are cars after all, and their particular generation of cars weren't so quiet in real life. Red acts as a contrast to the ruckus that is his hometown. In other words, he adds a variety to the ensemble cast. Remember when Mater blamed Red's curt exit from McQueen's place on his shyness? He indicated that Red was an introvert. Like other hints, the cars drop at different points through the movie to assert what I just mentioned. So Red is an introvert. Really? That would explain why he avoids McQueen, alright? Since he was still a cocky stranger. In the scene where McQueen does a poor job at fixing the road he messed up, then proceeds to roast the town when he calls out, Red is obviously emotional and cries. But it wouldn't explain his relationship with the other cars in Radiator Springs. Red has good rapport with other cars in town. We see all the silent respect the cars have for him through the movie. When Lightning was trying to repave Main Street, Sarge set up a small radio playing a military-type marching music. Red knocks the dial and changes the station to one playing something more upbeat. Sarge glares at Red, who then sheepishly changes it back. This gives us an insight into a playful but sensitive side of Red. And remember, deeper into the plot, after the town has won McQueen over, Red is seen bouncing to the music playing on a radio, cruising like all the other residents. In these two moments, Red doesn't utter a single word, but he's not cold either. I think it's safe to rule out Red's introverted nature as the reason for his quiet nature, since he isn't speaking to anyone, at least not in public. And finally, we could consider the fact that people find silent characters easily lovable in movies and certain scenes, especially animated ones, which have an endearing flair already. There's Dopey from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb, and even Wally from the Wally movie. I personally love Dopey's goofy and secret nature, didn't you? Then Perry, who never said a word, but always evoked a strong reaction whenever he was in the focus. And Wally, our curious robot who rarely spoke, was so lovable in the film, with all the ways he always conveyed emotion. Plus, Red is a fire truck. Firefighters themselves aren't known for their volume. They let their work do the talking for them, an awful lot like Red. Shout out to those dudes, they are real heroes. Now that I think about it, I can spot some similarities between Red and Wally. Can you see it too? So we've got Wheezy, Wally, and Red. This is getting interesting. I wonder who else we'll find as we go deeper. Pixar is known to leave a lot of mind-muddling questions in its viewers after its movies, and Cars was so not going to be an exception. Their repute for attention to detail is incredible, and that's exactly why we love their movies this much. But now that you know everything about Red, you might want to know more about Doc Hudson too, since his character development also changed due to the passing away of his voice actor. I actually made a video about that, so make sure to check that out too. And if you like this video about Red, make sure to hit that notification bell so you won't miss a new Cars Theory video. See you in the next one.